Our music this morning, a special song Raymond has written, a song he said that he wrote for his daughter. And Pastor is going to be preaching about the father's role in the home and the church. And so Raymond's going to bring that song to us this morning. Where's Faye?
When it's dark and raining and you don't know where you're going, and it feels like you're all alone. When your friends have all gone and your heart is broken, and it feels like you're all alone. When life fails you and the world falls all around you, and it feels like you're all alone. Wake up, little ones, and get up and meet the sun, and you need to know you're not alone. Jesus died to save you, and He became a friend to you, and you need to know you're not alone. Weeping lasts through the night, and joy comes in the morning, and you need to know you're not alone. Commit your ways to the Lord, and come and get your reward, and praise the Lord. You're not alone. You're
From 2 Samuel this morning. Story of David. One of the times in his life when things wasn't what he wanted them to be. Involved more than just himself. The Bible said of David that he was ascending Mount Olivet, and he'd been there before. He'd journeyed up this mount before. This wasn't his first time. But as he's going, he's weeping. He's shedding tears. The tears are falling, and his shoulders are slumped. His head is down. His steps aren't as steady as they once were. He's struggling. He pauses to rest more often than normal. The hindrance is not an outward one as much as an inward one. We adjust better to outward hindrances than we do to inward hindrances. This was probably the longest path that David ever walked in his life. It was even longer than when he walked up to face the giant Goliath. His longer path than when he was a fugitive and Saul was hunting him and pursuing him, and he had very little food to eat and very little things that he could give his army. It was a longer path than the one from conviction when he had committed sin with Bathsheba and led to his confession after Nathan the prophet came to him and said, "Thou art the man, and life will be different for your family from now on." None ever compared to this one. He doesn't have a crown, a king's crown. And the reason he doesn't have a crown is that his son Absalom has taken his army and he sought to remove and was successful David from his throne. David is homeless. This man used to live in a palace, folks. But he's homeless. He's homeless. I don't care where you used to live or where you live now. You could become homeless. You hear me? You could. You can lose it all, you know. You can lose it all and it be your fault, or you can lose it all and it be contributing forces of this world we live in. From the palace to being homeless. What a terrible experience. Where he used to live, his son lives now. And if he looked back, he would see the city of Jerusalem. He has no throne. He has no home. And ahead of him is nothing but the wilderness. We've been there, hadn't we? Some of it anyway. We can identify with David this morning. We've been there. We know something about the disappointments of life. And what's happened is he hadn't just lost in battle. His people hadn't been afflicted by any disease. There hadn't been a famine or a shortage of food. But what's happened is a terrible experience. How does a person of David's status as king end up old and lonely and on an uphill climb from all that is precious to him? David knows, and God's Word reveals it. We could ask David this question, and I want to ask you and myself this question this morning. How are things with our family? How are things with our families? Most important thing I know of in my life is my family. After the Lord Jesus. My family. My family. Your family. How is it with them? Sometimes we, like David, it's not a pleasant subject. 14 years prior to this, he had committed adultery with Bathsheba. He was where he shouldn't have been. He was supposed to be in battle, but he stayed at home. After he committed adultery with Bathsheba, he had Uriah, her husband, put to death by setting him in the forefront of the battle. Adultery led to murder. Painful years had come and gone. Costly, folks, costly. David's son Ammon had lusted for his half-sister Tamar. Ammon plotted and raped his own half-sister. And then he discarded her like she meant nothing. We're told in the Bible that Tamar had emotional problems. Sure she did. Sure she did. She put ashes on her head, as was the custom in that day. She tore a robe. And she remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. David heard about these things. You know, somebody told him. Somebody carried the message to him. You know what David's response was? He's just angry. He got angry. Nothing more from David but just anger. Just angry. Just angry. Now, according to the Bible, it's okay to get angry for the right purpose, you know. Right purpose. Right purpose. I get emotional, and I'm sure you do, when things go wrong that I'd planned should have been right. You know. I become upset about it. And I become displeased about it. And all of this David experienced, but he just got anger and held it within him. If you're the leader of your family or a part of your family and you get angry and all you do is just do that, you're helping destroy them. Do you know that? Anger that lingers in the heart and controls us and destroys us. David didn't confront Ammon, you know. He didn't punish him. He didn't banish him. He didn't say anything to him. Where is David? He's at home, angry. Angry. You know what causes some anger in our lives as head of the house? We're ashamed. We feel offended that our boy or girl could do anything wrong, or our spouse could, or our children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren, and we put ourselves ahead of them instead of saying, I'm a man and I'm the head of this house and I care about my family, and no matter thick or thin, we're going to make it through this. But just getting angry is not enough. If you want to be angry, but do something about it, folks. Step to the plate as the head of the house, a man, and do something. David didn't. Nothing else but anger. No lecture, no penalty, no dressing down. Talk to your children. Talk to your children. I remember raising a boy. He's sitting right back there, and he got to be a teenager, and the first thing he wanted was a car. That's normal, isn't it? You know, it's normal. It's normal. He got him a car, and the next thing he wanted was a girlfriend. That's normal. Sure he did. Nothing wrong with that. That's all right. No, it's not a sinful thing. God ordains that. You know. Next thing happened in our house that me and him had conversations along the way, no matter what we were doing, working or playing or sitting in the living room or the den watching TV. We had some conversations along the way, and I said, there's one thing I want to teach you. I'm your dad. You respect those little girls that are your girlfriend. You respect them. You respect yourself. You be big enough to be a person of integrity. And if you do anything wrong, by all means come straight home. And if I'm asleep, wake me up and say, I just did this, Dad, and we're going to have to deal with it. Going to have to deal with it, folks. You have to deal with it. David didn't. No lecture, no penalty, no dressing down. He didn't do anything for tomorrow. Do something to my daughter and see what happens to you. You know? Yeah. You'll see an old preacher coming down the road with a pair of bib overalls on and brogan shoes, and he'll stop at your door and I'll inquire as to what motivated all this stuff. She needed her daddy. Did you know that? Tamar needed her daddy. She needed him to come over and say, now, girl, we're going to make it through this. Going to make it through this. Going to make it through it. Sometimes you know what goes on in kids' life, and sometimes you don't. I might have shared this before. I remember several years ago, I was still working with S&W, and we was sitting there, and one night, Dot and I was, telephone rang, and I answered it, and my daughter said on the other end of the line, "Could you come get me?" I said, "I sure could. I can come get you anytime you want me to come get you." I said, "What day would you like for me to be there?" She said, "Day after tomorrow." I said, "I'll have to fly. I'll miss one day's work, but I'll do it. I'll have to fly into Dothan, Alabama, and y'all pick me up." So when I got off from work that evening, Dot took me to the airport, dropped me off. I flew to Atlanta, had a wait over a couple of hours, flew on this little prop jet, scared to death, wind a blowing, got into Dothan, Alabama. There they was at the airport. Little girl, Raven, who's 20-something now. She was a little bitty girl. There was my daughter and her husband. They met me. We went to their house and went to bed. It was late, spent the night. Got up the next morning. She had everything packed, pre-packed, some of it. I asked no questions, and they didn't volunteer any information. I helped load the vehicle. We got in the vehicle. She said, "Drive by the bank. I need some money before we go." So I did. We started out of town. She looked over at me and said, "He acted like he didn't care if we was leaving." I said, "Now back up here, girl. Back up here. Back up here a minute now. Can't be partial, you know. Back up here." When we left, that old boy was in tears, bawling, and he had walked off, so she couldn't see. I couldn't sit there and let her talk about him when it wasn't true, even though this was my daughter, you know, close here. But truth is still truth. Somebody needs to set it all right. I'm not the referee of bad things that go on. Jesus was too smart for that. And I got just a little of his sense in me to know I can't do it either. But I said, I'm not taking sides, honey, but that boy was devastated. We wasn't home till that phone was ringing. The second day, he shows up. Everything was honey and spice, you know. Just a loving and a kissing. I liked it. I was glad of it, you know. When they started home, he said, "I'll have to leave one vehicle." I said, "That's all right. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." I've never had to go get her anymore. I've never dealt or dug deep to know the reason. I figure someday they might tell me, and someday they might ever, and I'll get to heaven without ever knowing it. That's fine. But I want to be there for her if she needed me. She needed her daddy. All she got was silence. Absalom, her brother, did something about it. He did something about it. "Daddy won't do something. I'll do it," he said. He had Ammon killed. Killed. Picture what's happened to David's family, folks. Just picture this. Incest, deceit, a daughter ashamed, a son with blood on his hands. It was time that David stepped up to the plate. It was time that he said, "Let's get together. Let's get together and work this out." Needed some courage. You remember how courageous he was? He killed animals when he was a little boy as a shepherd. He had to have courage to face Goliath. But David didn't intervene or respond. He just stayed in solitude. David never attempted to see Absalom. Absalom married and had 4 kids according to history. David avoided seeing Absalom. David had done a lot of good things, folks. He brought 12 tribes together and formed the children of Israel, that nation, and became king of it. He'd done a lot of good things. He'd unified these tribes. He was a mastermind when it came to military. Do you know that? Do you remember what the crowd said about David? They said Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000s. He was an extremely intelligent person. He helped elevate God as the Lord of the children of Israel. He brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. He wrote poetry and psalms that we sing today. Now they're tears, but they're tardy tears. Tears that are too late. I don't know about you. I've never seen a shingle hanging out downtown that said, for families, exemption from trouble. Have you? You know, exemption. I'd sign it today, wouldn't you? If there were a place like that, I'd sign it today. But none of us, none of our families are exempt from trouble, folks. How are our kids doing? You know, how are our kids doing? Oh, you say they've been such an embarrassment. Man, I've given them enough money. And you said, come on now. I've given them enough money. I've had to go do this. I've had to go do that. I've had to be involved in this. I've had to be involved in that. So what? So what? If they're the most important thing in the world to me, so what if it cost a lot to maintain them and my family? So what? I'm not taking any of this with me. I'm investing in them so that I'll get to heaven and they'll come someday too. That's the good thing about it. That I'm going to be there to help them work the problem out. You know who's heroes in our society? Real parents. Real parents. I don't want to hear about politicians. I'm sick of them anyway. The whole bunch, you know. I don't hear them doing none of this stuff that we push parents in the background. Real parents that step to the plate and try to help folks and kids and families and grandkids and great-grandkids. Real parents don't have any blue ribbons. They don't give out blue ribbons for real parents. You know that? They don't have any trophies to polish because nobody gives out trophies for real parents. I tell you what parents can do. Mothers know how to do this. They know how to give spit baths. Got something on your jaw there. You done that? I thought so. They know about boo-boos. Do you know that word is an international language? We go off places, little kids will be there. Oh, you got a boo-boo. It's international. Mothers know what it is. We don't see their names in the daily newspapers. You never see a write-up in the front page about how good a mom is or how good a dad is. They sew hemlines. They stand on the sidelines. You don't see their names in public places, but their names are in school on the homeroom list. They're on carpool list. They're on Bible teacher list. Real parents are. They're heroes. Public don't know nothing about it. But I tell you who does know something about you. That little boy and girl, or even that teenager who's grown up, or even the married kids you have and their spouses and your grandkids and great-grandkids, they know who you are. They call you Mom and Dad and Grandma and Grandpa. Isn't that a great honor? Isn't that a great, that's a great honor for them to care something about you because you've always been there for them. You're the folk that hold the world together. Do you know that? Not CEOs and lawmakers. You're worth more to God's kingdom than they'll ever be. You're priceless. Do you know that? You're priceless. We all have dash holes. David, you know what he said at the end? He said, I had good intentions. I had made preparations. I never did get to do them. Never did get to do them. Used to be a fellow worked at Chroma Locks named Charlie Bowman. His bark was worse than his bite. You seen folks like that? Oh, he's tough. He said he was tough. He said when I knew him, I don't go to church. Wife goes to church. Kids go to church. Grandkids go to church, but I don't go. I don't go. He's gotten older now. His steps are like mine and David's was, going up Mount Olivet. They're slower, His back's bent a little more. The gray's in his hair. Struggles more. Subject to fall at the least little thing he steps over. Dot saw him in town. You know what he said? Oh, he said a great thing. He said, Dot, I was wrong all them years. All them years, I was wrong. He said one day I got to thinking, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, great-grandkids, all go to church, say they're living for Jesus, and they're going to heaven when they die. He said when they do, the condition I'm in, I'm going to be the only one that won't be present with them in God's heaven. He said I couldn't stand that any longer. So I made peace with God. Isn't that great? I said, wherever they are, that's where I want to be. That's where I want to be. That's where I want to be. We've traced one grandson we got. We've been all over the country with him, We drove places out of state where he was, in jail. Go see those folks called bondsmen. They don't want much. They just want everything you ever worked for. They want you sold to get him out of jail. Sometimes when we tried, we failed. Sometimes when we tried, we didn't fail. He's doing great now. Doing great. I called him yesterday and said, I know where there's a job if you won't do it. He said, I want it. When he started to hang up, he said, I love you, David. He said not long ago, prayer sure has changed things, hasn't it? I want to ask you again, folks, how is it with you and your family? Or you say they've embarrassed me. Don't go through that, That's okay. They've cost me a war pension. We say, old folks used to say that. They cost us a war pension. I say just give it till it runs out. Do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, It's okay. It's okay. I'll die and leave this world before they do, I'm sure. Every now and then I take a Bible I'm preaching out of. When it gets worn, I'm about ready to do the one Melissa got for me. When y'all give it to me, it's from the church. I give it to one of these grandkids or great-grandkids. I put it in a brown manila envelope with a letter, and I give it to their mom, and I say, don't open this till they're 18 or 21 or I'm dead and gone. Let them get big enough to understand what I'm saying. And in there, I put emphasis on living for the Lord, and then I put always work in harmony with your mom and dad. They have your best interest in mind. And I give it to them. I want to live after I die. I don't want to just die, folks. I want to live in them and through them because I love them. And I want their influence to be wholesome and good. Let's stand together. Wayne will come and sing a hymn of his choice. I don't know what you've been through in life, but mine is not exempt from trouble. When I was 20 years old, I stood at a casket with a little baby, and it was my first child, my daughter. Watched them lower in the grave. Wasn't pleasant. Wasn't pleasant. Wasn't pleasant at all. I moved parsonage to parsonage sometimes. Wayne knows. Wasn't enough money to go around, was it, Wayne? Mm-hmm. Grocery money for gas money. I've said to that fellow right there before, we don't have the money, son. You'll have to wait. He didn't gripe or fuss. The Lord worked it out. Well, what I'm fixing to say is, folks, I have no regrets. Live your life with no regrets. If you've got a child here that's been a little wayward, or maybe you, child, you've been a little wayward or disrespectful, as we sing, why don't you just go to them and y'all have a good hugging and say, we're going to make it. Don't you think that'd be good? We're going to make it. Sing, Brother Wayne.
I want the Lord to have His way with me.
Don't be bashful. Don't be backward. Just go ahead.
I want the Lord to have His way.
We're going to make it. We're going to make it.
Help me live a holy life.
No matter what happens.
Shun the wrong
what comes, bad or
and
good.
do the right.
We're going to make it.
I want the Lord to have His way with me.
I want that
I
tall
know
boy
the
to come up here.
Lord will make a way for me.
And I want to hug him and tell him we're
I
going to
know
make
the
it.
Lord will make a way for me. Help me live life.
We're going to make it.
Shun the wrong.
No matter what
and
happens,
do
we're
the
just going to make it.
right.
You know.
I know the Lord will make a way for me.
Now, I don't want it to be hard on you, but it may be hard this week. There may be something come up bad. If you'll dial 893-8777, I'll pray for you every morning at 4 o'clock, and I'll come and run into your house if you need me. Don't you give up, folks. Don't you give up. Whatever you do, don't give up. Don't give up. Just hang in there, you know. Hang in there, because you're going to make it. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine upon you and give you peace in your heart. Amen. God bless you. Thank you for coming.